What's the went through med school just to realize you couldn't stand the sight of blood of your job field. Had a teacher in my nautical academy that found out he was chronically seasick. Friend went to become a vet tech before realizing she was allergic to cats, grew up with dogs only. When I get really angry enough to feel an adrenaline spike, I have trouble speaking. Every word is a legit physical and emotional struggle to produce, and it all comes out in a low, growly voice. I am a lawyer. I'm in law school, and recently realized that I hate reading boring. It's going great. Got a master's in engineering to realize I hate sitting at a desk all day. Went to school for firefighting, had a classmate drop out because he was afraid of heights. I went to massage school with a girl who realized she didn't want to touch people for a living. Sound engineer. I'm sensitive to loud noises. Should have thought that one through. Went through the PhD process just to realize it's not at all like science classes in college, only harder. It's about doing original research, which college classes, and even most undergrad research experiences, don't accurately emulate or prepare you for. It turns out that the skill set to be a high-achieving science student and to be a research scientist have surprisingly little overlap. Edit. I feel like I should add here that this realization came more as a professor myself than as student. I am the child of a scientist myself and practically grew up in my dad's lab, so I was introduced to what research science is like very early and I took it for granted. It was only when I began to teach and have research students myself that I saw how much school trains students just to be students, not scholars. Another thing I have learned is that this moment I refer to above is not the time when one realizes a fatal flaw, but a decision point. It's the time when someone decides if they want to switch gears and go into research, or go forward the way they were going as students. This is often a rough transition, but, like many others, it's worth it to push through and the results can be really wonderful. Edit 2. I am also getting a lot of responses from stressed out PhD students and I want to add one more thing, just for you all. The PhD process can be one huge mindfuck, and you don't even realize it until you are on the other side. It has the power to make you feel like your value as a human is being evaluated. This is not true. You can leave tomorrow and still be a valuable human. Alternately, you can love your work, it can bring meaning to your life, and you don't need to die a little bit when you get criticized. Criticism is good, it is how you improve. It's true that people will rarely go out of their way to make the criticisms easier to take. This is part of the culture of academia for better or worse. In the end, though, I think it's better to encourage an environment of open and honest discourse rather than focus too much on how doing so makes other people uncomfortable. Just remember this, everyone is going through the same thing, everyone finds it hard, and anyone who doesn't say so is lying. This is why it's important not to become isolated. Keep in touch with other students, particularly senior ones. Don't rely on your advisor as your sole source, or any source, in many cases, of support. Find other faculty members that you jive with. The more you put yourself out there, the more you will realize everyone is going through the same thing, or went through it already. Went through a rather longer apprenticeship learning how to cut meat just to figure out I couldn't stand the cold of the cutting room. Toughed it out long enough to get promoted to manager so I didn't have to be in it if I didn't want to be. My friend applied to be in the RAF. failed the medical because he is colorblind. This was the first he knew about it. He was 21. I work in an art museum. I love art, love all of the community outreach the museum does, all the programs for kids / veterans / cancer patients to have a creative outlet. But I hate talking art. It's so bullshitty. Not every person that has an exhibit is going to be a genius, sometimes, rarely, but it does happen. The artist is a true hack, whose work required little to no creative thought, dedication of time, or new ideas. And you look like an if a patron asks what you think of the art and you don't your pants over it. You're expected to go to every gallery opening, which is basically every night, even though everyone forgets what was even on display 2 weeks later. But the amount of times I've heard, you haven't gone to the Bone Farm. You haven't seen JoJo's installation of cut-up pants. How many hipster galleries do I have to pretend to give a about? My brother-in-law went through seminary and got a job as a youth pastor, only to find he absolutely could not speak in public. He does construction now. Many people become a lawyer only to discover they hate practicing law, because they didn't really understand what that meant when they went to law school. Law is very boring, involves a lot of rote work which has little practical effect on a case, and is ultimately soul-sucking. Being a lawyer involves very little grandstanding in courtroom. Many lawyers never do that. Even trial lawyers, like you see on TV, only get a couple trials a year at best, and some go years between trials. The only kinds of lawyers in court every day are criminal attorneys. Spend years learning about electricity and circuit design only to discover you are colorblind and can't determine which wire is which. I had nightmares in college about failing lab finals because I had been afflicted with spontaneous color blindness. Going to film school, then working on a real set. Learning the hierarchy and the unions, many moving pieces, and politics really makes you start to hate the industry and really turns you off. Ask a person in film and TV production, how long have you been working in the industry? Most people's response: too long. Edit, wording. Has anyone said chef afraid of knives? Chef afraid of knives here. Started my own freelance business, then realized I hate people, I hate kissing, and I hate stressing about clients paying on time. I work in a pathology / bacteriology lab, so basically if you're at all squeamish, you've got no chance. I took swabs from a chunk of necrotic tissue on my second day, and I'll never look at fried mushrooms the same way again. Human resources. Went through school to realize I couldn't lay someone off. Honestly, terminations for cause are pretty bad, but at least they did something to cause it. I'm talking about downsizing. Edit, typo. Graphic design. You design for clients, not yourself. You don't get to have a bunch of fun making goofy you like. Edit, some of y'all are lecturing me about the nature of graphic design, lol. I know. I'm a designer. I love my job and my colleagues, even Sharon in accounting that has no taste. I have good days and bad days at work, just like everyone else. My comment is about those bright-eyed college kids who can't find work or lose interest because they realize that being a designer is a job. You're often at the will of your employer or client, and you can't just make cool things anymore. Your job is to solve a problem and make sure it's on brand with whatever your client wants. It can be a hard pill to swallow for people that think graphic design is all fun and games. It can be. But in a professional setting, it's most likely not. Working in an office, realizing I hate 90% of office culture. I swear I'm not the social anxiety-ridden depressed Redditor you may be picturing me as. I'm fairly extroverted and social, but damn it, I hate office bands. The implied need to look busy, the implied need to stay long, the haiku-esque need for conformity. Anything that's weird gets a comment. I was dead set on being a video game developer. Started in QA, saw the endless hours of crunch, the devs working 80+ hour weeks without showers or shaving, smelled the funk of hundreds of unwashed bodies, the crossed fingers at reaching publisher milestones for bonuses that would hopefully make it all worthwhile, and the constant fear that they wouldn't get picked up for the next project so they could keep getting paid and keep making mortgage payments. Decided that I'd rather be in systems in lieu of development and never looked back. Teaching writing in college because I really enjoy writing, even academic writing. Turns out I hate reading though, and that's all the job is. Edit to hijack my own comment, here's some of the weird stuff my students have written. Second edit, grading a new set of papers. I'll be updating this post with new oddball stuff as I find it. Teaching as a whole. The burnout is real, especially for high school/middle school. 150+ students a day, lesson planning, 9-hour days, work at home, etc. A lot of people just stick with it 4 years due to teach grants, or if they can make it the 10 years so that their loans are forgiven. The empathy fatigue and burnout is real. First year teacher, but I love it. I just see it everywhere. Edit. The oversight as implied by the initial post include, not liking children, not realizing the amount of time and effort needed to be a teacher, realizing I actually want weekends off and my nights, realizing you don't actually get breaks as the stigma states and you have to prep, grade, and create lessons on your time off, realizing you care too much, which breaks your heart when you find out one of your children are abused, physically or sexually, realizing you actually can't survive on the income by yourself. It goes on and on. As everyone has commented on the thread. Just wanted to add that in since there's some negative Nancy's out there. I teach English to kids aged 3 to 9 in China. I can't tell you how many people I've met while teaching abroad that either can't stand kids and or constantly complain about how the country is so different from their own, considering being able to handle children and adapt to new surroundings are two of the biggest requirements to do the job. Major in journalism. I'm antisocial and I live under a rock. I own an in-home childcare. I hate germs, boogers, and messes.